One thing that I realized is that I am the only person that's going to be with me forever. My body and my mind are the only things that I will have with me through my life. And I have a loving family and friends and people for support. But the truth is that they will come and go at some point, and I have to be happiest with me. And I will always be with me.
Welcome to the Becoming a Better You podcast. My name is Monica Brooks, and I'm a self improvement enthusiast who is eager to share tips and strategies to help you become the best version of yourself. As an inspirational speaker who transitioned from a corporate career, I'm here to guide you on your journey towards enhancing your overall human experience. If you're ready to take the first step towards becoming the best version of yourself, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. All right. Welcome, Erin, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. You're
Yeah.
my good friend, Monica, and I'm
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, first, I'm honored you said yes, because let's be honest, it was first like a hard no. You're like, I don't like to talk about myself, as a lot of people feel, but I
Right.
think when I want people, when they listen, I want it to feel like they're just listening in on a conversation with friends. And that's what today's going to be. I want to start though with a quote that was quoted in a book, and I want to see if you recognize it. And if you don't, that's okay, but it reminded me of you. It said,
Okay.
all big things come from small beginnings. The seed of every habit is a single tiny direction. But as that decision is repeated, a habit sprouts and grows stronger. Roots entrench themselves and branches grow. Any
Is it from
idea?
Atomic Habits?
It is from
James
Atomic.
Clear.
Yes, yes. I
I
read
didn't
that book.
know that. I don't have
Okay.
that memorized, but I really do like that book. It's my go-to book if people are looking for a recommendation. I love that book.
Yes. And that reminded me of you. One, because I know you've read it. I have read it also. And the fact that it was quoted in this book I'm reading about boundaries. When I think about habits and when I think about you and kind of like your transformation into becoming the best version of yourself, and we're going to get into that and what that was, there had to be this decision and
Right.
which way you really wanted to go. Tell our listeners why you feel like I chose you to be on this podcast as far as becoming a better you.
Well, I am 43 years old right now, very similar to you, if you wouldn't give
Yes.
away your age, Monica.
I'm okay with that.
And I was really just starting to feel not my best after I turned 40. Like, I really didn't have too much hang up about turning 40, I don't think, but I just started to notice that I wasn't feeling as good as I used to. It also happened right around during the year of the pandemic when that started, and I stopped moving as much because I started working from home full time. Just kind of feeling down and not great about
I
myself.
feel like people are like, yes, me too.
Yeah,
Like
I
people
think
are
that
going,
happened
I
to a lot
think,
of people.
absolutely, absolutely.
I also started to put on a little bit of weight because, I've always been considered myself pretty athletic and stayed pretty fit. And I've done sports and different things throughout my life. But at that point, I was doing a little bit of working out, but not that much. And, just not feeling too great. And I noticed that the pounds were starting to add on. My clothes were not fitting very well, and I was having to buy larger sizes than I used to. And I was really okay with that, but it was the not feeling super well overall that really got me thinking what can I do differently to make me feel better? And so I kind of relied on what I know. I'm a project manager, and I've worked in the cancer research world actually for about 20 years now, and the logistical part of it, not really doing the research, but kind of helping to facilitate it. And I earned my project management professional certification several years ago now. And so just some of that work and organization kind of helped me have a framework to maybe apply to my life, what I can do better.
I love that. It reminds me of a podcast I did when I interviewed Tony Weaver from Operation Melt, and he is also a project manager, and he lost a ton of weight when he started applying what he learned in project management to himself. And it was really amazing. And I had wondered, because I knew you're in project management also, if that was like some of the structure that you took to losing weight?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a skill that is helpful to be able to apply things to your life or to do any task really. A project is something that has a beginning and an end. It's
Hmm.
not something that's really ongoing. So my life and my lifestyle isn't a project.
Right.
It's it's a process.
Yeah. And now you have
The
to maintain like
Right,
the
exactly.
habits that
Maintenance is a
you,
whole different thing. But the project kind of that I decided to take on was losing weight. Kind of like I said in the past, I've never really had to do that before. I've had a couple of kids and I've put on some weight here and there or something like that, but I've never really had to focus on it too much. I just kind of would stay active and maybe like kind of think about what I was eating a little bit more. But at this point, especially this post 40 thing, the weight
yeah.
was staying on, I was moving less. So I felt like I really needed to take some more action to do something about it.
So I feel like I relate to this a lot, and I'm sure other people do too, but because I'm telling myself the same thing. Like I've never had to
Hmm.
like work out to lose weight. Like I until
Hmm.
I, went into menopause and like over 40, like I noticed a significant difference when I turned 40 in like my vision even. Like things
Hmm.
just started changing and then also being in menopause. And I'm at this point to where like, wow, this is adding up. And I
Hmm.
don't want to focus on numbers necessarily, but it's just when you notice your body, clothes feel tighter, that doesn't feel good mentally
Right.
and physically.
Right.
So, what point, and this is where I get stuck, like, this is where I know I need to do something. At what point did you really make that firm decision that you were going to do something? Like, I guess I should
Hmm.
ask, did you have to do that? Like, was there a day one for you?
So I've thought about this a lot because you've asked me, other people have asked me, and there really wasn't like a click moment, like, okay, this is it. It was me feeling that way and then kind of taking some baby steps to put an effort towards it. So you do have to decide like that's what you want to do. And so I did decide I want to lose weight, but then I had to start thinking hard about the how and the why.
Mm,
And the why is really important. Like, why do I want to do this? Is it because I just want to look better? Is it, like I didn't actually ask myself about this. So I'm kind of like, it didn't all happen step by step by step, but this was something that happened towards the beginning. So there was kind of a trigger that happened. I work at a place where they started offering a lifestyle spending amount. And so it was a certain amount that they would give every quarter. And so that kind of did give me an incentive to say, okay, I think I want to join a gym and start doing that. That was kind of a step. It was also a conversation with my husband, like, hey, will this fit into the budget? What do you think about this? Because it is a time commitment too, and that type of thing. So there were just like little things and steps along the way. And like I mentioned before, I was feeling kind of down about it
hmm.
myself. And my husband was really supportive and great through the whole process. And he's never like made comments on my body. And like he's really aware that that could like hurt somebody's feelings
Right.
or anything like that. And so I was asking him, I'm like, what did you think about it when I started deciding I wanted to do more for myself? And he's like, I just wanted you to be happy. That's it.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
So did you ever get to your actual why? I mean, I know you
Oh,
wanted to feel better, but
yeah.
like what was the why? I mean, did you drill down into the actual
So
why?
yeah, the why that I started thinking about. So I joined the gym and the manager at the gym was great because, in my mind at that time, I was like, well, I'll sign up and I'll probably do the treadmill. That's what I feel comfortable with. I'll probably just do that. And he's like, oh, well, we have classes and what do you want to do? I'm like, I kind of want to lose some weight. And he's like, well, to lose weight, you really have to change your nutrition. And I was like, oh, and I like, yeah, I should
Damn
have
it.
known that. I actually have a degree in human nutrition too.
But I mean, it's putting those
but
pieces together. Like in your
yeah,
head,
it's
you're
like,
just like walking, lose weight. Okay, but
yeah.
it was almost like it's going to take more.
Yeah. So he was just kind of like throwing out some ideas. And if you really want to sign up and do this, these are things that might help. And he also had me sign up with a trainer because they have this free first session. Like, hey, you can meet with this person and maybe you can work with them. Well, I'm also a pretty frugal person. And I was like not wanting to pay somebody in addition because it was already a big step for me in our budget to say like we're joining the gym.
Right.
And now like on top of that, so I did kind of go in with the mindset like, okay, I'll meet with her, but I'm not paying her. I'm just not. But getting to the why, she's the one who actually, I thought she was just going to show me some different workout techniques
Hmm.
or talk about things like that. And that's not what the meeting was like. She started out saying, like, well, what do you normally eat every day? And I didn't expect that. And, she had me run through it. And I was like, well, really? I have coffee in the morning. And I was trying to make it sound really good. Like I'm
Yeah.
doing all the right things. Like I have coffee in the morning and I'm using creamer. And I was like feeling bad about using creamer because there's influence out there to,
Yeah.
to make you think that you're doing things bad or wrong, or
Hmm.
like, oh, there's things in the creamer that aren't good for you.
Hmm.
So that's something we'll get to. But
Okay.
anyway, it's like, yeah, I have coffee and then I'm just not really hungry. And then I usually have a salad for lunch. And that's true. Like I did a lot, but I'd be like working, working, working. And then I'd be like ravenous. And then I would eat salad, but I wouldn't add anything to it. And then I would, make dinner. We'd have dinner and I'd eat a ton of dinner, or I'd like be snacking on chips like the whole time
Mm.
because I'm like starving because I haven't really
Hmm.
like given myself enough of the proper energy for the day. But I didn't realize that. I just thought, like I
You
had
weren't
gotten
paying
so used to
attention.
that pattern that that's like what I was doing. And so anyway, she is the one who got to the why. She's like, well, why do you want to do this? And I was like, I just want to lose weight. And but why? I'm like, well, I want to feel better in my clothes. Why? I just feel more confident when I look that way. Why? Because I want to set a good example for my kids. So like the more you start thinking about it, the more you start getting into like if you really want to do something or not.
Yeah.
And so,
There's this person, I don't even know where it was, but I saw her cup and I think about this all the time. She had a sticker on it and it said, "How bad do you want it?" That was it.
mhm.
And I'm like, I bet she goes to the gym, because that's what it comes down to is if you want to lose weight, if you want to feel better, have the confidence, set good examples for your children, how bad do you want it? You
Mhm.
know? So you started changing what you were eating as well.
I did. So at that point, I was signed up. That gym manager got me to sign up for a class because, like I said, I was really thinking like, oh, I'll just walk on the treadmill and that would be a good start too. But
Yeah.
the class actually like pushed me a little bit more, and it got me out of my comfort zone a little bit. And even though I've done group fitness in the past, like I've taken Zumba, like this class involves some strength training, and I was like, oh, I don't know
And
about that.
and I
Because
will
I'm
say
not used to doing that.
it's a hard class because I've gone with you. And
Mhm.
I am not even kidding. Like the warm up, it was like starting with jumping jacks. And I was like, my legs hurt. Like I couldn't even get
Mhm.
all the way through the jumping jacks. I mean, that wasn't even intense. It got more
Yeah.
intense, but I was like,
Yeah.
I'm really out of shape. So I definitely can speak to how hard it pushes you in your endurance as well as your strength.
And that really actually helps with your mental strength too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So if you can get through that class, then you feel good about yourself. Like I made it through that class and
Mm,
that gives you some confidence that you can do other hard things too.
yeah.
So beyond just the body change, it's really about your mind too.
You're starting to change your diet. And from what
Mhm.
I see, you also started tracking what you were eating.
Yes.
Talk to me about macronutrients.
Okay.
So, just to make
So
sure people understand what they are and how you track them.
so that kind of gets into the how. When
Okay.
I made this decision that I want to lose some weight, get better, the how came into play. And I also, you might have saw on my Facebook or Instagram posts, like I had a little inspiration. I started kind of researching like what works. And I randomly came across a Pioneer Woman article where she had lost
Oh, I did
weight
see that. Yeah.
and And that was kind of inspiring to me. I was already in the mindset that I wanted to do that. And she's someone who cooks comfort food for a living all the time. And she laid out a really nice article about things that she did to meet her goal to lose some weight. And they were things that I wouldn't necessarily have thought she would do or like that people would do. And one of those things was weighing her food, like measuring your food in
Hmm.
cups is not as accurate as weighing it and knowing the actual amount.
Interesting.
Um,
So is that what
the
you do
weight
now?
I do. Yeah.
Has it helped you? Or how has it helped you, I guess?
It has helped me. It's made me much more aware of portion sizes and, just how assuming that you're eating something healthy, it might be like healthy, good nutrient dense things, but if it's too much of it, it might just be too many calories for your body at that time, and that can add to either your maintenance calories or a surplus as if you're eating too many calories for what your metabolism can burn.
At any point,
So
did this all feel overwhelming? Because that's what I hear. Like I'm like, oh my gosh,
mhm,
this sounds very intense, and I don't know if I could do this. Did you
it
struggle with that?
a little bit, but I was kind of determined at that
Mm,
point, and I started also looking at some Instagram pages and I found some dietitian pages and weight loss pages that I felt were practical approaches and that made sense to me and were giving some good advice. And so it kind of helped to find a few people who I felt were giving good advice and I could kind of like follow and do some of those techniques as I went. So I think that that's an important tip is like there can be so much information out there and you kind of have to narrow in and focus on like what you think you can do.
would you be willing if I included it in the show notes of some of the accounts that you follow if people
Yeah,
wanted to look at those as well? Okay, good.
definitely.
So definitely listeners check that out.
There's a lot of different personalities out there. No one's the same. Everyone's different. And you have to keep that in mind too. So something that might work for me might not work exactly for you. And, everybody has a different life. And that's kind of what makes life great. Like, wouldn't it be weird if everybody followed the exact same schedule and did the exact same thing? Like, there would be no variety. So you have to still find what works for you. But just something to keep in mind with that is there's a lot of sales people and
Oh yeah. Well, that's
there's a lot of
yeah.
fear mongering because fear sells a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what Instagram has turned into,
Hmm.
clearly, is it 10 years ago, I forget how long it's been here, 12, it was simply sharing pictures. And it
Hmm.
was like, oh, we could somehow monetize or advertise. And it's a lot of advertising,
It is.
it's a lot of free information. And then as far as the fear mongering, I think there's a lot of that with food, like don't eat this because this, causes cancer or, like
Right.
there's, you have to find the right people that resonate with you
Right.
online. And you don't want to do things fear based because that doesn't feel good.
Right. Like I said, find ones that resonate with you and are helpful, but you still have to kind of come up with your own plan.
Hmm.
So, you asked me about macronutrients.
Yeah.
There are three main components that make up nutritional values of food, and they are protein, carbs, and fats. And I do have a degree in human nutrition, like I mentioned. I just didn't go into necessarily that line of work specifically. And my degree is kind of biology, general science based as well. So I'm not a dietitian. I'm not somebody who comes up with meal plans and things like that. But I did learn about some of these basic things that I
Hmm.
think are things that the general population could really benefit from knowing a little bit more about.
What do
It's
you use to track those macronutrients? Like, do you have an app that has been
mhm.
helpful?
I personally use MyFitnessPal. It's free, or you can pay to upgrade if you want to be able to scan barcodes on foods and things like that, but you don't have to do it. There are other apps out there as well. I just haven't used them, but that one works for me. And I also like I wear a tracking watch. So a Fitbit is what I use. I don't have an Apple Watch, but I use that app as well. And this is where my project management skills kind of come in. I have a spreadsheet. I love Excel spreadsheets.
I remember the days I used to say that. I'm like, Excel, that's my jam.
Yeah. So I keep track of what I'm eating in the apps and my movement in the Fitbit app. And I set up a spreadsheet with a structure of tracking those things. How many steps in a day am I getting? How many grams of carbs am I getting? How many grams of fat am I getting? And how many grams of protein am I getting? And I also researched and said, well, like, what's really recommended for exercise? Steps, movement is recommended. And I was just looking it up. I think the CDC recommends 150 minutes of exercise, moderate intensity
For a week,
exercise
right? Within a week.
a
Yeah.
week. And so you break that down and that's like 20 or some minutes a day or something. So you kind of can work backwards and figure out like, okay, if this is the recommendation, how much do I really need a day or like what kind of works for that? And so I have some columns on my spreadsheet that track where am I getting that movement, those steps, that cardio, and then some columns for strength because they also recommend strength training. So my goals, you kind of start small, like, okay, I'm just tracking this now. I'm seeing what I'm doing. And I've actually worn a tracking watch for steps for a long time. We've had a lot of work challenges and things like that where we've done things like that. And I haven't wanted to use that for like a weight loss purpose before, but now I kind of have it more applied for that purpose. So I was going for a while, I was seeing how many steps I was doing kind of generally. And then I set my goal like, okay, I'm going to go for 10,000 steps a day. Movement is important throughout your day. I'm going to see if I can do that. I have this stay-at-home job. I'm sitting in this exact spot a lot of the day. So, like, how am I going to
Yeah.
do that? So I said, okay, well, I can add on some other things. Also, clutter, messy house is something that was also kind of like bogging me down. I never really got into a good cleaning habits routine when I was younger. I grew up like in a single mom household and she did so much for us, but some of that stuff just kind of went to the wayside. So I never really like got into a good routine with some of that. And I knew it bothered me that like,
Mm,
we'd have a messy house or I could never
mm-hmm.
like kind of get to the laundry or there's always sink full of dirty dishes or whatever it is. So it's like, well, I can kind of kill two birds with one stone if I can take some mini breaks and go do the
Clean.
dishes. In the morning, I can throw a load of laundry into the washing machine. And then my goal is to not just do that, but to get it put away. And, don't just let it sit there because the letting it sit there is like, then it piles up and then it becomes
Mm-hmm.
like a bigger thing that it is. So that's one thing that I started doing to try and just get more movement in my day. And it was making me feel better when I had a cleaner house,
It
clearer
sounds like
surroundings.
these were intentional steps. These were intentional things you had to start doing. It wasn't just, let me get through the day. Let me get through my work day.
A good mindset is to not just be like, oh, I survived that, but like, okay, I was active, I took some steps, and now today's
Yeah.
over with, and I only have that now this moment in front of me, and tomorrow, so.
One of the things I want to do is like run out and buy a scale, right? Like
Uh-huh.
so in my head I'm like, "Oh, I want to start measuring my food." And I know I'm going to get it and I'm going to be like, "Wait, okay, now what am I doing with this?" So
Yeah.
it's like to me, I'm jumping ahead. I need to like start a little more basic and start some
Hmm.
healthy habits, and then when the time comes, go get that food scale because I'm going to know what I'm going to be measuring for.
Yeah.
We just have that tangible thing like, "All right, I'm doing it."
Yeah, and
I have this, I
there
have
are
that.
tools that are helpful, like a watch tracker is helpful.
Yeah.
Like you're going to need some shoes. You're going to need shoes that
Hmm.
you want to work out in versus like I wear shoes when I am in my house because that makes me when I put shoes on, that means I'm probably not laying around on my couch as much or like I'm going to have to think about it to take my shoes off
Yeah.
and kind of
Yeah,
lay
that's a
down.
good
So
one.
just to be more active throughout the day.
Mentally ready also, right? When
Yeah.
you put those shoes on, your body starts to adjust and your mind like, all right, we're
Yeah.
going to get moving today. One of the things I love that you have is your habit tracker,
Hmm.
right? The spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I think are they spreadsheets where you color it in
Yeah, like
when
this.
there yes, there it is. I'll definitely have to this will be on YouTube. I don't know if I told you that yet. But we can share that also like on my Instagram too. But what I love about that is it's the visual. And I
Yeah.
have learned through work, my corporate job, how important visuals are. we've used visuals since we were in kindergarten, right? Like the
Yeah.
weather outside or whatever it may be. And I think that helps you see where you've been. We would use red and green for they were our KPIs.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's what those are too, your key performance
Yeah.
indicators. How are
Yep.
you doing? And they're just for personal use, but they would be green if we met our goal and red if we didn't. That way we could see visually like, okay, I did. And if I didn't, what happened? What was the reason
Hmm.
why? That way, if there was a root cause for us not, achieving something we needed to, we could dig in a little bit deeper. I love that you have these trackers to visually help you stay, I think, on point, right? Like, because you get to see over time what that looks like. You shared them from
Right.
2023, what they look like all the
Right.
trackers. Do you have, like, tell me what you're tracking on those?
So for 2023, when I really made these decisions to start, when I joined the gym, when I started kind of setting up my spreadsheet, that was like November 2022. So that like wiggle room time from November to December was like helpful for me to like get some of those things in place. Like I could keep doing a little bit and kind of getting an idea of what I wanted to track. And I kind of set it in stone for 2023, like
Okay.
the beginning of 2023. So it doesn't have to be that way. And I don't want people to think like you have to wait until the year starts to start doing
Oh, no.
something or
Start
anything like
today.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there isn't. I think sometimes I always say time's an illusion. Like a day is a day. If you want to start today, you want to start tomorrow,
Yeah.
go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was just kind of what like geared me up to be like, okay, I'm really going to do it. So I think having a goal in mind can be helpful if you're going to use a tool like this
A goal for
to
like how many steps you want. Like if your goal is I want to
yeah.
get 10,000 steps, you're going to use the habit tracker to see, okay, these are the days I did it.
And one of the tricks to starting habits, which if you read Atomic Habits, you will learn, is actually starting really small. It's not going from I'm getting 2,000 steps a day to 10,000 steps a day. So the tracker, like I kind of hesitate even calling it a habit tracker because the habits might be something really small
Hmm.
that like I'm just going to put on my workout shoes because that's going to put me in more of a mood to like move and work out. Like that might be like a smaller habit that you're getting used to that like leads to a more bigger goal.
I think that's great. And that quote that I read at the beginning, it says that all big things come from small beginnings. And that's
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, I'm going to get 10,000 steps starting tomorrow. Maybe it's just five, four. I mean, it just
Hmm.
depends on your movement now.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what it looks like and where are you now and where do you want to go? Did you
Hmm.
ever feel like discouraged through this? Like, I know a lot of times they say, okay, it's going to take this long for you to notice. It's going to take this long for other people to notice. Just out of curiosity, what was that time frame for you?
It's funny because it's for some reason, I think it's really because I decided I was prioritizing myself
Mm.
as a mom,
Who works full
especially
time?
who
Yeah.
works full time, that can be a hard thing to say and do. But I just decided that I matter and that I want to take better care of myself. That kind of helped me to not get so down if I didn't see progress right away. Other people can be a big influence on you and they can say positive, nice things, or they could say, like they can get stuck in what their own issues are and kind of like want to say things that is like, are you spending enough time with your kids? Or are you like being a little obsessive about this? And so it's like, if you're really taking care of yourself, you've got your own things under control, you have the power to not let that bother you.
Yeah, it's staying true to yourself and
Yeah.
back to your why. And I love that this has turned into a form of self-care. Like you are
Yeah.
taking care of you. And what better way to help raise your family when you're at your peak, when
Yeah.
you're at your best versus they always say like fill your cup up before and I get it. It's hard, but it's so important to take care of yourself in
Yeah.
those ways. And people are always going to judge. It doesn't matter. Like if you didn't work out, why aren't you going to the gym? And then
Yeah.
it's, I've never looked at you that way. I've always, as I tell you, as I stand behind you in Zumba, I'm like always, I'm always inspired. I'm like, man, she looks so good. And you were never unfit. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
but now you're like fit. Yeah, you're toned, your clothes sizing has gone down And that must feel really good when it started to get baggy, I would imagine, like, oh, it's working, you
Yeah, those
know?
those visual things are working. Weight loss is just it's a tricky thing. So one thing about weight loss and the turning 40, I did have that like, well, it's my hormones and I'm just not,
Yeah.
you know,
My body's just
my
changing.
it's yeah, it's just time for
Yeah.
that. Well, some of the influence that I got, the positive influence was like, well, it's not that you turn 40, it's that your life has kind of changed and you're probably in the more of a comfort zone and you've kind of settled in a little bit and you're probably moving a lot less than you did when you were younger. When you were younger and you were hustling for your job and to kind of establish yourself, or you were hustling like you're picking up your little kids. Like when you stop having to pick up your kids, like there's like just less movement that you're doing. So, and it's not just the magic age of 40 either, but just as you get older, you might start really just moving less than you used to and not realize it.
Yeah, and I feel like it would be easier to accept it. Like, I'm over 40 now, and this is just my
Yeah.
life. This is just my
Yeah.
body. And we're not saying there's anything wrong with that
Right.
lifestyle, but
Right.
you used the time after you turn 40 to do something different. And this is what works for you.
Yes. Yeah.
What would you tell someone who is in that spot you were in when you turned 40 and they just need some encouragement or just something to really kickstart their habits?
One thing that I realized is that I am the only person that's going to be with me forever. My body and my mind are the only things that I will have with me through my life. And I have a loving family and friends and people for support. But the truth is that they will come and go at some point, and I have to be happiest with me. And I will always be with me, including my mind and my thoughts. So that I think is the most important thing for anyone to realize. And so whatever you want for yourself is going to be like, think about what will be good for yourself that you're going to be happy with because you're stuck with you.
Yeah. That's a great point. I've always used that analogy towards other people, like, oh, they got to live with themselves. Thank goodness I don't,
Hmm.
but I've never used it on myself. Like, well, shit, I got to live with myself now. How do I want to feel the next 40 years? You
Yeah.
know, I love that, Erin. That's definitely given me some perspective that you might as well make it the best place possible for you to live.
Yeah.
And so I think that goes not just our eating habits, but how we move our bodies, how we think, how we talk to ourselves.
Yeah.
As you maintain your weight and just your healthy habits, how do you overcome obstacles?
Yeah. So, I got a big obstacle.
Yeah.
As I was going through 2023, losing a pound a week, it took about 6 months to hit this 30-pound mark. And then I went for an annual mammogram because I was, health conscious and
Yeah.
wanting to get a checkup and take care of myself. And I ended up getting diagnosed with ductal carcinoma in situ. It's stage 0 breast cancer. But that was like really soon after I just hit my goal. And
Yeah.
then
I mean,
so
it was
that was
almost
a
like, oh, here's healthy Erin. And oh, by the way, I just got diagnosed with breast cancer. Like that
yeah.
blew my mind.
Yeah, so I could have taken that as okay, I need to stop what I'm
Press
doing. I
pause.
push myself too hard. I just need to think about this. But like I felt so good from controlling the controllables that I could and getting my daily movement in and steps and working out. Like I didn't want to stop that. So actually that was more important to me than like worrying about the cancer that
Yeah.
was in me. So
There's so
that
much
really like
power in that. Like when you have that power to, like you said, control the controllables and continue on in that path
yeah.
versus the cancer itself. It was there,
Yeah.
right? You couldn't
Yeah.
do anything about it at that point.
Yeah. And, I met with the doctors and talked to you because you have experience in that. And I read, oh, some things you can do to help or start eating a more healthy diet, include protein, include plant-based foods. And I was like, I'm already doing
Yeah.
things. And I felt a step ahead actually, instead of like feeling like that didn't work. I felt like, man, that would have been hard for somebody to start this on top of a cancer diagnosis. So I think it's really important to be proactive in your life. Hard things are going to come. but you can prepare yourself to handle it better, to
Yeah.
handle it
I feel
in a
like
stronger way.
when you got your diagnosis, I remember telling you, you're already doing all of the right things, your
Mhm.
diet and your movement. And I feel like personally, and I don't know, there's no way to tell, but I feel like that went into you having the stage 0 versus a stage 3 or, stage 2, but like even the health conscious to get your mammogram,
Right.
like just being at your peak performance. There's no way to know how worse it could have been or whatever, but I just feel like you are already at your optimal health as you went through your diagnosis. And I believe because you were so healthy, that definitely, again, there's no way to know, but I feel like that helped carry you through and to get through it very, very well. I mean, I know there's also
Yeah.
the emotional piece we don't talk about
Right.
always, but the physical piece.
Right.
So that's
And
my,
that mental strength actually helped me get through it too. So I talked to one of the trainers at the gym about this because his class is pretty hard. He pushes us pretty hard, but I can get through that. I keep working on the mental strength to be like, okay, I can do one more push up. Like,
yeah,
and so when I had to go do radiation and I had to lay on the table, like I was using that, if I can get through Jerome's class, I can I can lay on this table. Like I'm gonna be okay. Like
yeah. I love that because I mean, I think that's the class I was in and it was very
hmm
hard, but you realize I can do anything. I've
Yeah,
already done hard things up until this point, and just like everything else, we keep moving through it and we
yeah,
become better.
exactly. That's really important that you don't have to be good at something to start something.
Yeah.
You improve by continuing to practice it, continuing to try it, and you can kind of level up as you're going and get better. If you think about it like school or learning something, start with 101. Start at the beginning, start learning about movement or about the basics of nutrition. Start there with some advice from people who are kind of experts in it and aim for an A, not an A plus. An A is going to give you the same GPA result as an A plus. You didn't have to necessarily like kill yourself to get the A. And you don't have to be so hard on yourself if you're not perfect. Like perfection isn't real,
Right.
really. That's a pressure you're putting on yourself.
It's the progress,
So
right? Like the
yeah,
progress you want to
it's
continue to
making the
make. Yeah.
progress.
And
If
no
you're
one's doing everything perfectly. There is no perfect diet for someone to follow because we're all
right,
unique and different.
right.
So it's finding what fits for you, what works best for you, because what worked for Erin doesn't mean it's going to work for Monica. Although I wish it was very copy and paste. You had mentioned this word about the intention, and we can't simply wake up in the morning and let the day rule us.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to set those goals, set the intention of what you want to accomplish. If I said Monday through Friday this week, I'm going to write this down, I'm going to walk 5,000 steps. What time are you going to walk 5,000 steps? Like
Mhm.
what's it? Because if you just let the day play out, yeah, you're going to be too tired.
Yeah.
There's always, I've looked at it like exercise, like there's always going to be a reason not to do it. And what you have to find, what has to be stronger is your reason to do it. And there's a whole list of reasons why to do it.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
can start new habits very small and you can maintain them as well. And I think that's the most important. And I think my biggest takeaway is this is my home. My body and my mind are my home for the rest of my life. And so I better do everything I possibly can to be the best Monica I possibly can. And I
Right.
feel like that fits so well into becoming a better you. And again, this is why I picked you because I see you and you've just become this better person the past few years. And I am so proud of you. I'm like your personal cheerleader. I will continue to tell you that you inspire me after every Zumba.
You inspire me too.
Well, thank you. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. I
You're
appreciate you
welcome.
being on the podcast, sharing your story. And you've made it clear this is not a business for you. This is not a coaching. You can't go find Erin and ask her questions about how to do your diet and how to do your movement. But hopefully you'll find some encouraging thoughts and things that inspire you from Erin here on the podcast. All right, Erin. Well, that is a wrap until next time, everyone. Bye from Erin and Monica.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Monica.
Yep.